Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Krown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So there I was, just minding my own business, arranging the shelves at the store. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon, nothing out of the ordinary, but turns out this will be a day that was about to become a chapter in the annals of entitled people history. We got a new manager, Karen. Now, I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but if Entitled had a face, it would be Karen's. She waltzed in like she owned the place, making changes left and right. The first thing she did was rearrange the entire store layout, claiming it was for better customer experience. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. One fine day, Karen's radar of entitlement locked onto poor old Charlie. Now, Charlie was a gem of a person, always had a smile on his face despite the fact that he rolled around the store in a wheelchair. Yes, he was disabled, but that never stopped him from doing his job efficiently. Heck, that was more productive than half the staff combined. So on this one day, Karen stormed up to Charlie while he's stuck in the shelves with canned beans. I'm just a few aisles away, pretending to organize a potato chip display while eavesdropping on their conversation. "Charlie, we need to talk," Karen says, crossing her arms like she's about to drop some divine wisdom. Charlie looks up, his bushy white eyebrows raised in surprise. "Sure, what's up?" Karen looks around, making sure no one else is within earshot. "I've been observing you, and I must say it's not appropriate for someone like you to be working here." I nearly drop a bag of chips at that line. "Someone like you? Seriously, Karen?" Charlie, bless his soul, stays calm. "I'm not sure I understand. Is there an issue with my work?" "Oh, there is an issue, alright," Karen says, leaning in like she's about to spill the juiciest gossip. "You being in a wheelchair is bad for the store's image. We can't have customers thinking we employ disabled people. It's just not good for the business." I'm fuming at this point. I mean, who says that kind of stuff? But I keep arranging those chips, not wanting to blow my cover as a stealthy eavesdropper. Charlie, on the other hand, looks genuinely puzzled. "I've been working here for years and no one had a problem with it before. Why now?" Karen smirks, thinking she's dropping the mic. "Well, now I'm in charge, and I have standards to uphold. It's nothing personal, Charlie, just straight business." That did it for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I abandoned the chips and stormed over, pretending to be oblivious to their conversation. "Hey Charlie, need help with these beans?" I ask, shooting Karen the dirtiest look I can muster. "Oh, thanks, that would be great." Charlie replies, grateful for the interruption. I start helping him, shooting Karen glares with every can I pick up. She gets the message and scurries away, muttering something about checking the inventory. As soon as she's out of earshot, Charlie leans in and whispers, "Can you believe this? I've never been treated like this in all my years here." I shake my head. "Oh man, it's unbelievable, Charlie." She's out of line. But little did Karen know she just kicked the hornet's nest. You see, Charlie wasn't just any disabled worker. He was a co-owner for the store. Yep, one of the people who signed her paychecks. Only me and a couple of other workers knew this fact. Karen's entitled antics continue. She's rearranging the store layout again, making the aisles more confusing than a maze. Customers are complaining left and right, but she brushes it off, claiming that it's for their own good. But just when everybody is about to had enough, Charlie calls for a staff meeting. We all gather in the break room and Karen strolls in, thinking she's a queen of the world. "Listen everybody." Charlie starts, wheeling himself to the front of the room. "I've been observing the changes in the store, and it has come to my attention that some decisions were made without proper consultation and consideration for the staff and customers." Karen rolls her eyes, not realizing that her reign of entitlement is about to crumble. Charlie continues, "As one of the owners of this store, I believe it's my responsibility to ensure that the values and standards we uphold here are in the best interest of both our employees and customers. With that said, I've decided to make some changes. I've decided to relieve Karen of her duties as a manager," Charlie announces, and the room erupts in a mix of gasps and snickering. Karen, however, is in shock. She stammers, "You can't do that. I am the manager. You can't just… Charlie cuts her off with a stern look. Actually, I can. You see, I'm not just an employee here. I'm a co-owner. And it's clear that your management style doesn't align with the values of this store. Karen turns pale. But you're disabled. You can't own a store. Charlie chuckles. Well, surprise. Disability doesn't define what a person can or cannot do. And in this case, it turns out it's the store owner who's been rolling around in a wheelchair all along. The room falls silent and Karen is left speechless. Some of the staff, on the other hand, start shouting, "Get the hell out of here, Karen!" As Karen gathers her belongings, escorted out by security, she shoots Charlie an angry look, but he just smiles and waves. Charlie continued to manage the store himself, making decisions that benefited everyone, disabled or not. And as for Karen, well, let's just say she learned a valuable lesson that day. Or at least I hope. 3 months ago, my husband's sister Emma came knocking on our door with a suitcase and a sob story about needing a place to crash until she got back on her feet. Being the good-hearted people we are, my husband and I welcomed her into our home. To show her gratitude, Emma offered to babysit our 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, who happens to be on the autism spectrum with delayed speech and language development. We thought it was a win-win. She gets a roof over her head and we get some free babysitting. What could go wrong, right? Fast forward to 3 weeks ago, Emma was babysitting and I was at work when I got a call that would send any parent's heart racing. It was the police. They told me they had found my 3-year-old son wandering the streets, alone and scared. Apparently, he had managed to slip out of the front door without Emma noticing. How does that even happen? When I confronted Emma about it later, the conversation went something like this. "Emma, what the hell happened? Why did the police find our son wandering around the neighborhood?" "Oh, it was just a little misunderstanding. He must have sneaked out when I wasn't looking. Kids, you know. Misunderstanding? He's 3 and has autism. You were supposed to be watching him." I did my best. I panicked and I searched for him for an hour before calling the police. I thought I could find him myself. You spent an hour searching before calling the police? What if something had happened to him? What if someone had taken him? Oh, relax. He's fine now, isn't he? The police brought him back home. That's not the point. You were supposed to keep him safe. And why didn't you call me or my husband immediately? I didn't want to worry you. I thought I could handle it. Handle it? You put our son's safety at risk? You broke our trust, Emma. The fallout from that conversation was a heated argument. And I couldn't shake off the feeling that she might not have even told us if the police hadn't explicitly instructed her to do so. It felt like she was more concerned about covering her tracks than our son's well-being. I made a tough call. I asked Emma to leave our home. I couldn't trust her with our kids after what happened. But the real drama began when I told my husband about my decision. Well, he wasn't too thrilled, to say the least. "You kicked her out? Really? It was an honest mistake. Anyone could have let a kid slip away for a moment." Honest mistake? You spent an hour searching before involving the police, and she didn't even bother to call us right away. She panicked. She didn't want to bother us at work. And now you've left her with nowhere to go. That's pretty harsh. Harsh or not, my priority was my son's safety. I couldn't wrap my head around the idea that someone who was supposed to be responsible for him could let this happen. The fact that she jeopardized his safety and didn't immediately inform us was unforgivable. But my husband had a point. Emma had no alternative living arrangement, and I felt a twinge of guilt about putting her out on the street. It was a messy situation and I couldn't help but question myself. Am I the jerk here? Days turned into nights and I found myself torn between my anger and a nagging guilt. Was I too harsh? Was I overreacting? And I decided to talk to my husband again, hoping we could find some middle ground. Look, I get that you think I was too severe, but it's about our son's safety. I can't just overlook that. I understand, but she's family. And she has nowhere else to go. Maybe we can find a compromise, like giving her another chance, but with stricter rules. Another chance? After what happened? I don't know if I can trust her again. We went back and forth arguing about trust, safety, and family loyalty. It wasn't easy, and emotions were running high, but in the end we decided to give Emma another chance under some strict conditions. I laid down the rules. No more unsupervised time with the kids, especially our son. She needed to be vigilant, no exceptions, but we also installed extra locks on the doors to ensure our son couldn't pull a disappearing act again. Emma begrudgingly agreed, realizing she was lucky to even have a roof over her head. The tension in the house was palpable, but we were trying to make it work for the sake of the family harmony. Days turned into weeks, and surprisingly, things seemed to be going smoothly. Emma was following the rules and the kids were safe and sound. Maybe, just maybe, we could move past this dark chapter and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. But deep down, the nagging doubt persisted. Could I truly trust her again? Was I putting my family at risk by giving her a second chance? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I was determined to make it work for the sake of the family unity. One evening, as I watched Emma playing with the kids in the living room, I couldn't help but wonder if I had made the right decision. My husband approached me, sensing my inner turmoil. Do you think we did the right thing by giving her another chance? I honestly don't know. I want to believe people can change, but this is about our son's safety. I can't afford to be wrong. We'll keep a close eye on her. If she messes up again, she's out for good. But let's just give her a chance to prove she can be responsible. And so we cautiously moved forward, hoping that Emma had truly learned from her mistake. The days turned into weeks, and the unease began to fade. It seemed like we might be on a path to healing. Then came the day that shook the fragile peace we had managed to establish. I received a call from the school about our daughter. Hello, Mrs. Smith? This is Mrs. Johnson, your daughter's teacher. I wanted to talk to you about that incident that happened today. My heart sank. What now? It seems that Emma picked up your daughter from school without your knowledge. She said you had asked her to do so. What? I never asked her to pick up my daughter. Where is she now? She's here in the school office with your daughter. We wanted to confirm with you before releasing her into Emma's care. I rushed to the school, my mind racing with a mix of anger and fear. How could she do something so reckless again? I stormed into the office where Emma and my daughter were waiting. What the hell, Emma? Why did you pick up our daughter without telling us? I thought it would save you the trip. You're always so busy and I thought I was helping. Helping? You don't get to decide that on your own. You put our daughter at risk by taking her without our knowledge. What if something had happened to her? I was just trying to help here. I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of it. Because you're proving you can't be trusted. You jeopardized our son's safety and now you're pulling this stunt with our daughter. I can't believe you will be so irresponsible again. The school staff looked on awkwardly as our argument escalated. The trust I had tried to rebuild crumbled once more. It was clear that Emma hadn't learned from her mistakes and I couldn't let her put my children in danger again. I took a deep breath and turned to the school staff. I appreciate your concern, but I cannot allow Emma to pick up my daughter. From now on, only my husband or I will be authorized to do so. We confronted Emma, expressing our disappointment and concern for our children's safety. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it needed to happen. You've shown that you can be responsible, Emma. We can't risk our children's safety any longer. You need to find another place to stay. She protested, argued, and pleaded, but our decision was final. The next day, she packed her bags and left. The house felt lighter and the air less tense. It was a tough choice, but it was the right one. So, am I the jerk? Maybe. But sometimes being a jerk is the only way to ensure the safety of those you love. And now some comments on a post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. An honest mistake? Initially, yes, kids can be slippery little devils. The big mistake was not calling you. Spinning her wheels, searching for an hour, then hearing the police thankfully had him, man. When she was going to call you. Has she even apologized? Doesn't sound like it. She's staying with you to get back on her feet. So, she's an adult. This isn't some 19-year-old being an idiot. She should have known better. And since she doesn't, no, she cannot be relied upon. And she deserves banishment." Another commenter goes with, "Not the jerk. Drowning is the first cause of death for autistic children. Your son eloped. Her first call should have been to you to find out if there was any place he was known to go so she could check there first while she was waiting for you and the police. A third commenter goes with, your son could have died. Also, many states make parents who lose their children take parenting classes and have strikes against that can cause them to lose their children. This is a serious issue and she should not be trusted with your child. Edit, OP is not the jerk. I would 1000% kick her out hard times or not. Your son could have been seriously injured or worse. Hey there. So there I was, just a regular soldier, minding my own business, living in this fancy HOA neighborhood. Nice house, nice neighbors, or so I thought. Let me tell you about the time my HOA went from annoying to downright criminal. I was doing my duty deployed overseas, fighting for my country. While I was out there, my house back in the States was the last thing on my mind. I mean, who thinks about their HOA when they are dodging bullets and trying not to get blown up, right? Little did I know my peaceful little abode was becoming a battleground of its own. The HOA decided to seize my home, seal it, and not bother to tell me a single thing. Now, I was still paying my dues like a responsible homeowner, thinking everything was just fine and dandy. Fast forward a year later, and I'm back on home soil. First thing on my agenda, a cozy reunion with my house. Oh wait, it's not that simple. Turns out the HOA sold my house while I was out there fighting for their freedom. Talk about gratitude. So what's a soldier to do when he finds out his home has been swiped from under his nose? Well, you call in the big guns. In my case, it was a JAG. The Army's Judge Advocate General's Corps. They sent a letter, a polite one, telling the HOA to cut the crap and return my property. You know what happened next? Silence. Absolute radio silence. The HOA probably thought they could get away with it. Little did they know, they were messing with someone who didn't back down. Jack and I decided to take these entitled HOA folks to court. And boy, did we have a case. 11 federal laws broken, yes, you heard me right, 11, and the judge must have had a field day with that one. They awarded me $1.5 million and demanded the immediate return of my home and property. If they couldn't return it, federal prosecution was on the table. I can still remember the look on the HOA board members' faces when the judge dropped the hammer, and it was a mix of shock, disbelief, and probably a touch of regret. But hey, that's what you get for messing with a soldier who knows his rights. So, did I get my home back? Oh, you bet I did. The HOA board had to cough it up, but let me tell you, they weren't too happy about it. The court dissolved the entire HOA by order, and you know what happened to those board members? Poof. Disappeared off the face of the earth. Rumor has it they are living the high life behind bars. The neighborhood, once ruled by an entitled HOA, was finally free. Now, no more ridiculous rules, no more power-hungry board members, just regular folks living their lives without someone breathing down their necks about the color of their front door. And as for me, well, I got my happy ending. Home sweet home, a fat check, and the satisfaction of knowing that I took down an entitled HOA. Life's good, my friend. Life's good. So, a little bit of context. I, 25 male, and my half-brother, 50 male, lost our dad, 69 male, back in October 2022. He fought a long battle with cancer, but he is no longer suffering and in pain. My dad had my half-brother, we will call him G, when he was in his early 20s and me in his late 40s. Unfortunately, his first marriage did not work out soon after G was born. Due to the circumstances following the divorce, Dad wasn't really involved much in his life, but he still cared enough to keep in contact with him. Not long before Dad's death, he explained to me how when I was born, he didn't want to make the same mistakes he made with G, and how he wanted to devote all his time to raising me to be who I am today. That was one of the many things that still stick with me to this day. Fast forward to a few days after Dad's passing, G drove down to help with the funeral arrangements. While he was here, he contacted the storage facility where Dad left his valuables. Since he was the only alternate listed, he had access to the unit where both of us came and cleared it out. We went to Dad's house to examine the guns and knives he left behind, and it literally surprised me how many I didn't recognize, being that Dad and I used to go shooting at the range quite often. Now this is where the problem begins. Dad never had a legally signed will stating what went to whom, so G and I discussed that we would be splitting everything 50-50, cars, knives, belongings, and so on. But before I could get a word in about the guns, he quickly stopped me and said that Dad doesn't want you to have the guns right away because he said you were too young, which I found extremely bogus given that Dad gave me one of his pistols before my 21st birthday. I asked questions like, so what age would you think I should have some of the guns? Why would you need 20 guns? What do you plan on doing with them? He was being very vague with me and refused to answer my questions. He told me we will talk about this later. But the very next morning he was packing up the guns and his things before I realized what was happening. He was supposed to stay another day to help with the funeral arrangements, but he had to give back to his family and just left it to me. He wasn't even going to say bye until I woke up and saw that he was leaving. A year went by and now I'm engaged to the love of my life. We just moved into a townhouse. I FaceTimed G and showed him the new place and he congratulated me saying Dad would have been so proud if he saw me today. That's when I brought up the inheritance again. I told G that I'm at a point in my life where I now have my own place and soon-to-be wife, and that protection matters. Again, I asked him whatever happened to the guns that he took, and he replied with, just let it go, man, they are gone. Gone? Did he sell them? He ended the call, and after a few days, I reached back out again. Hey man, I'm not gonna bother you a whole lot about the issue, but if you can give me a call, I just need some closure. Then he texted me with this response, it ain't all about you, man. Think about how you try to manipulate people to get what you want. I told you I left because I needed to get home and make money for my family. We did not have a lot of savings to fall back on. You keep throwing that in my face. I'm drawing the line on manipulation, bro. I care about you, I want the best for you, but I will not be manipulated. I will be hard on you like a father. I don't allow this with my kids. I hope your fiancé doesn't allow that either. We are all selfish by human nature. I don't drive a $28,000 truck. I don't have a 70-inch TV. I also don't have a $16,000 Harley. And I don't want those things at this stage of my life. I'm living to see my kids grow up and be productive. I am happy for you, and that you have a lot to be thankful for is my point. Always remember, borrower is a slave to the lender. I know you're a kind young man and so is your big brother. Trust me. I gave myself some time to think about what he said and I replied with, so I'm sorry if it seems like my demeanor is coming off as manipulative. Sometimes things sound better in my head than what I can say in words. So I apologize for that. I am not trying to come from a place of greed, but I'm more or less looking for his closure because as a brother, I at least deserve to know what you did or what you plan to do with some of the items associated with the core memories me and Dad made together. Did you sell them? If so, that's perfectly understandable. You have a family to feed, then I would do the exact same thing if I was in your shoes. If that's what happened, then okay, we'll just leave it at that. And it will be no longer up for discussion. Another thing is, while it may seem like I'm doing well for myself, but in reality, I had to make a lot of sacrifices to get to a point in life where I'm at least comfortable. My fiancé and I had to drain nearly all our savings just to land a townhouse. Her parents were also gracious enough to help us with a lot of the furniture I showed you on FaceTime. And as for the Harley, I'm still in the process of trying to sell it to ease up on a new bills I've had to take on. So while it may seem like I'm trying to brag, I'm just proud of where I've gotten. And as a brother, I felt as though I wanted to share some of that so you could see the accomplishments I've achieved. With that in mind, I've realized that it's more important than ever to protect the things I've worked towards. And now that the woman I plan on marrying is now under a roof with me, I have to protect her as well. It's no longer about me, but us now. And I know I could just invest my money over time to afford those items. However, my fiancé and I have been trying to save up our money to be able to afford the wedding we plan on having in the near future. One that I hope that you all would attend if we could resolve this issue soon. Again, I am not asking for much. However, there were a few in particular that Dad showed me a long time ago how to use, how to clean, how to hold, how to load, and so on. He and I had made a lot of good memories with those, and it broke my heart when you left not knowing if I will ever see those again. I even discussed this with my fiancée, and she even brought up she would offer to buy back those items as Christmas gifts to me. A great woman, I know. I know what I mentioned above sounded very harsh, but there are some things in life that I simply cannot look past, and Dad's memories are one of those. I am not trying to blackmail you or push you into a corner with this, but again, I just want the closure you never gave me. Like I said, I'm not coming from a place of greed. If you had to sell them to provide for your family, that's okay, I get it. If you didn't, then please, I implore you to give this some thought. I'm no longer that wild young kid that used to drink a lot and have fun. I'm a grown adult now, and I hope that you realize that this isn't about me not being old enough yet or me trying to manipulate you, but rather me finally putting my foot down and letting you know that I'm not going to pretend everything is okay when it clearly isn't. I can't just let it go, man. I love you. You're the only brother I've ever known, and I have watched you raise a great family, and it's clear you would do anything to protect them. But please realize that I'm starting a new chapter in my life, and protection means just as much to me as it does to you. Please take this into consideration. And that was almost a week ago, and he still hasn't replied to me yet. My fiancé and I do plan on seeing them for Christmas because I made a promise to my nephews and niece that I would see them for the holidays. Not sure how else I'm going to approach the situation without starting conflict between G and me. Any advice would help. Also, I'm very sorry if I don't have the best grammar. Thank you. I got reminded of this story by another petty revenge. Many years ago when I was a college freshman, 18 male at the time, my younger brother, 12 male at the time, would constantly take things from my room. Pretty typical behavior, but I would always tell him to just ask, and I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. However, he was notorious for not returning it and for tearing it up. It was bad when I lived at home, but it got worse after I left for college. I came home for Thanksgiving break and noticed several of my things missing. I went into his room and there they were. I told little Prosiv to stop, and if he wanted something from my room to just call and ask first. I also warned him that if he kept it up, there would be a reaction. When I came home for Christmas, more stuff had gone missing. And since experience is sometimes the best teacher, I decided to reciprocate. While little Prosky was still at school, I went into his room and removed all of his clothes and hid them. To be fair, I just stuck them in the hall closet right outside his room. Later that night, around 8:30 or so, he was taking a shower, and then all of a sudden I heard that, "What the heck? Where are all my clothes?" He comes down to the living room with just a towel, freaking out because he can't find any clothes. I casually mentioned that I had warned him before and I had taken all of his clothes. He starts screaming and freaking out and then turns to my parents to side with him and make me tell him where his clothes were. Unfortunately, my parents were pretty much in stitches and did not rally to his cause. Eventually, I reunited him with both his under and overgarments and warned him that next time he would have to find them on his own if he continued to take my crap. After that, he started asking to use my stuff, and I like to think that I helped save him from a life of degeneracy and misery. He's now an orthopedic surgeon, and I'm pretty proud of him. You're welcome, people of the world. Feel free to mail me my Nobel Peace Prize.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.